longer LK4 X. Got it sitting right here. Did an assembly video on it a little while back. Now what I'm going to show is how to get this installed in Cura. There's two different ways to do it. Plus we're going to do a filament change and make a project coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and again what we're going to be doing here is installing the software. There's two different ways to do it, and if you follow what they have on their sheet right here, this is the most basic and easiest way to do it. Cura 4.1, which is slicing software you need to process your model before you print it. You install that software, you're going to have to replace a folder within the Ultimaker Cura directory with the resources folder that they provide on the SD card. And if you are not sure about what you're doing by looking at this, watch the little bitty video. There's a little video, a little short one. It's very, very simple to do. However, if you're going to do this and you already have other 3D printers, for example, I have some other brands here beside me, plus one in one of the other rooms. If you replace that resources folder, it'll take the resources out from all your other printers. If this is the only printer you have, that's a moot point. Just go ahead and do the substitution. Okay, I am running Ultimaker Cura version 5.2.2, which is the latest version as of October 29th of 2022, which is today. So if you are running a newer version of this, there will be no resources folder to copy that into. You'll either need to load the version that came with the card, or you're going to have to go through this process that I'm going to show here on the computer. And be forewarned, if you're not computer savvy and comfortable with G-code and stuff like that, you're not going to feel comfortable even attempting this. However, this is how you do it to put it into the latest version. Okay, if you have downloaded and installed the latest version of Cura, which I encourage you to do, there is no resources folder that you can replace as you would with the earlier version that's on the SD card. So what you would do here is you're going to go up here to add printer. You're going to add a non-network printer. You go down here to find longer. You're going to pick the LK4 Pro, and then we're going to make some changes in the settings. And I'm going to rename that to the LK4 X. Okay, here's where we need to change a few settings. Okay, here in machine settings, you're going to need to make some changes. Everything over here can stay the same just like it is. We're going to have to change the start G code. And this is a little bit complex. If you're not comfortable with this, I suggest you stick with the version that they put on their micro SD card. Otherwise, you can wait at some point. Ultimaker or Cura will be including the LK4 X. But if you want to jump in and use the latest version here, the 5.2, here is the G code that you will need to change to allow for that BL Touch to work. And you may want to screenshot this because you're going to have to type this in, and it have to be exactly as you see it here. Okay, from there, over here on this side for printhead settings, you're going to have to make these changes from whatever yours happens to be reading. This is what it's going to need to read. Your X-min -55. Y minimum -36, X max 35, Y max 20, gantry height 35. Number of extruders remains at 1. Apply extruder offsets to G code needs to be checked. You shouldn't have to change anything in the end G code here. That should be all the same because it just raises the extruder and shuts off the bed and all that kind of stuff. So from there you go to next. And you should be all set up here. All you need to do is bring in a project, which I'm going to do here in a couple minutes. I'm going to bring in a project here. It's a little fish that holds SD cards. I'm going to be using this guy right here, SD card holder 3. It looks just like that. And it doesn't need any supports. And it doesn't need any adhesion added. It's a very simple project. We're going to keep it at standard quality. Down here, make sure 200 on my nozzle and 60 degrees on my bed. Looks good there. Here to recommend it, I'll leave it at 20% infill. As I said, I don't need adhesion with this. It's plenty big enough. So all I need to do is slice it. So 2 hour and 43 minute print. And I can either, well, I could either save it to a drive or I could actually run it from here. Okay, so I told you it was going to be complicated if you're not real computer savvy and comfortable with working with that type of stuff. Again, if you're not comfortable with doing that, don't do it. Just use the version of Cura. It'll work just fine. That came on the micro SD card. And be sure to watch that little MP4 video that's on the card. It'll show you how to make that substitution and change that resource file. But again, a little bit of a warning there. If you have other 3D printers, don't do it exactly that way. Drop me a note in the comments and I'll try to walk you through it. It's a little bit more complex. Hopefully by the time this gets released and the next version of Cura comes out, that resource will already be built into Cura for this new printer. Since this is new, it's not in the software yet. So the next thing I want to show is how to change the filament using the filament change function on the touch screen. Okay, so here we are at the home screen when you first start it up. So what you want to do is touch filament, and you're going to unload. So I'm going to take this sample filament that came with the printer out of it. Click unload, and you'll have to wait because the nozzle needs to heat up for that to release. And the temperature is all shown right here. So we'll just have to wait a bit, let it warm up. It's a little chilly up here. It's 63 degrees up here in the loft today. Okay, as you can see here, we are unloaded. And the filament, and I didn't zoom the camera out quick enough, but it automatically retracted and pulled itself out. What you do next is take the filament out of the filament runout sensor. Just extract that. That off to the side. Got a partial spool of what they call rainbow filament here. And that's what I'm going to be loading in here to make my little fish. And little hint, when you cut the end of your filament, hopefully you can see that, cut it at an angle so it has a point on it. It'll make it much easier to load. So we'll set the spool up here. Make sure you don't let it flip and get a cross wrap in it or you have a mess. Feed that through the filament sensor. We will bring it down to the extruder. And I will start it in the hole here. Well, there's a little lever here you can push back. Let you slip the filament down in farther. And you can just let it self-feed, but I like to push it down until the bottom's out. Now, you're going to go back here to your touch screen. Now on the touch screen, you want to load it. So you click on load. And you need to wait until some filament starts coming out underneath down here. And in my case, I'm going to wait till it changes color. Make sure this is feeding, and it is. And once the filament changes color like it has now, just click OK to stop. That's all there is to changing filament. Very simple. I decided to do this from the micro SD card instead of being tethered to the computer because I need that for something else. So we'll just slip the SD card in this little slot. Go back here to home. And I think we should preheat here. So we'll preheat PLA. That gets the bed preheated as well. Click back on home. Of course, this is already leveled. We did that in the previous video, and the BL Touch on here will do the micro adjusting as it needs to do. So now we click on File, and we're going to be doing the SD card holder. And there you just click on Open. And it asks you if you're ready to start printing. Of course we are, so yes. So now I just need to wait. The nozzle is heated. It's already at 200. I have to wait for the bed to heat up to 60°C. And then it should do its leveling and start on its own. Okay, the bed's up to temperature. The nozzle's up to temperature. It'll auto home first. It's doing its auto leveling right now. Okay, now it'll run its purge line. I really like the bed on this because it's not only has excellent adhesion properties without having to fool around. Obviously you need it clean, but you don't need to fool around with hairspray or glue sticks or anything else. Stuff just plain sticks. And the other thing I like is to remove the print, and I'll show you it when this print is done, that just lifts off there. You give a little bit of a flex and your print pops right off. You don't have to be smacking it with a scraper or anything else. So I'm obviously not going to video a 2-hour print, but we'll check back on this from time to time and see its progress. Okay, as we continue on with this print, I want to point a couple more things out on this touch screen. As this is printing, it will show you your elapsed time. And so far we've got 1 hour and 58 minutes into this, about a 2.5-hour build. My height right now is 11.2 millimeters and we are 66% complete. And it also shows you your temperatures up here of your bed and your hot end. So there it is. And before I take that off the plate and show you how easy it is to do, let me show you how to ruin a print. Here's the first round right there. And as you can see, this is all messed up. That is no fault of the printer. I had left my laptop screen up and I left it too close to the gantry, and as the gantry came down on the Z-axis, it ran into the laptop lid and kept bouncing around, and that's why the top of that didn't finish. So it was a do-over. So here's our second one here, round 2. And take that off. You just simply lift this up. It's magnetic. Give this a little bend, and it comes right off. Of course that'll come off too. But then to just slide your bed back in place, there's little guides on the, it's a very strong magnet. There's little guides there though to guide you along the way. Get your bed back in there and you're ready for the next print. So there's our finished one. And if you're wondering what that's for, this is for holding SD cards and then micro SD cards in the back. Kind of a decorative little thing. And like I say, it articulates. Get that idea off Thingiverse. So there's how to set up your slicing software. And again, if you are not real computer savvy and comfortable with messing around and changing G-code and writing G-code, use the version of Cura that comes on the micro SD card that comes with the printer. If you are comfortable with it, I encourage you to move up to the most current version. But there again, as I am doing this, because this has not been released to the public yet, Cura, Ultimaker that is, does not have all the information they need to include that in their software as a resource. Again, another caution too, if you have more than one brand of 3D printer, and I have several of them, you can see quite a few of them right here, and you copy that resources folder as they show in the directions into the directory, you lose all the resources for your other printers. So there is kind of a way around that, but it's somewhat involved, and I'm not going to go into it right here. Your other option would be to put a second installation of Cura in, if you already have one, just for this printer. I'm sure in the future here, once this is out to the public, and it's been out for a couple months, Ultimaker will update their most current version of their software. They're pretty good at keeping up with all the new models coming out, and since there's so many manufacturers, so many new and improved models, that it's hard for any company to keep up. Here is what this is actually for. It's to hold SD cards, and it holds some micro ones. And here's another one I printed on the LK4 Pro over there in the corner, because I needed one down in the shop too. And since I was making one, might as well make two. Of course, I got the messed up one. I don't know what I'll do with that. So let's talk about a few more features on this printer. Obviously, I showed that magnetic bed, and that is just great for taking prints off. You just pick it up and flex it, and you don't have to mess around with a scraper and a little plastic hammer like I use on the Creality printers back here with the glass beds. The difference with the surface. This surface on this magnetic bed, I don't have to use any type of magic stuff or glue sticks or hairspray or anything else. Things just stick. I haven't had any issues here so far, and I'll be making more projects with this here shortly, and it will not be sitting here on my table. It's going to replace one of the Creality printers behind me. So in the next video you'll see of this, it'll be back behind me. I'll go over a few of the features of this printer besides the magnetic bed, of course. I like that. The direct drive extruder, I really like that. It also has dual fans, it has rapid cooling, so as your layers are put down, they're cooled much quicker than with a single fan, and you're less apt to get any type of deformity. As far as the bed goes, with what they call elephant's foot, or when you have a corner lift, that is not usually the fault of the bed. That's the fault of your settings and how your first layer is set up, and that's a little bit more advanced. If you're just getting into 3D printing, you're probably all confused there, but start out with the settings that are in the printer as it comes out of the box. It's very, very accurate, as I showed with that calibration cube in the assembly video on this. It's so close, I'm not going to mess with it. Another feature of this is, of course, most new 3D printers now have what they call silent motherboards, silent stepper motor drivers. So you're not hearing all this noise every time a stepper motor activates. And yeah, that was really annoying when you had the early models. 32-bit board, accepts micro SD cards. And the little slot on the front there, as I showed. It's got a large touch screen, as you saw over here. Yes, probably is out of view now, the camera. The touchscreen is very easy to use. There's none of this turning the dial and then trying to find the right thing and pushing it, and it's way better than the old dot matrix ones that came out on the very first printers with the early LCD screens. Well, that's a great plus. And of course, I can't forget to tell you about the BL Touch. As you saw, this BL Touch here with the auto leveling, that's a fantastic thing. You still do need to manually level your bed and get it reasonably close when you first assemble it, but after that, the auto leveling works very, very well. It does take a little bit of time as it runs at 16 points, but it's better than having a messed up project. So I'm going to conclude this video here. If you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up, always helps the channel. Again, if you're just getting into 3D printing and you need an entry-level machine that's still of high quality, I think this is going to be it. Roger, in the loft above the shop. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one, and there'll be more on this coming up in the future.